All right, so this notebook is going over just the different nutrient cycles. First nutrient cycle we're going to start with is going to be on slide 2. That is the carbon cycle. The carbon cycle is the cycling of carbon, and here are the main participators in the carbon cycle. We have the producers. Producers take in carbon dioxide from the air. Remember, we talked about photosynthesis during food making or photosynthesis, and they use carbon from carbon dioxide to make their food. How do we get the carbon out of the producers? Something eats it, and that is a consumer. Then, as consumers eat producers, they take in the carbon containing molecules, and both producers and consumers break down the food they obtain to energy. So then next we have, as food is broken down, the producers and consumers release carbon dioxide and water in the environment. And then how does it get back into, once it's in a non-usable form, how does it get back to producers? We have our decomposers. Decomposers break down their remains and return carbon molecules to the soil. Some decomposers also release carbon dioxide into the air, which the producers use. So, producers goes to a consumer, goes to another consumer, then it goes to a decomposer. So it's just cycling the carbon. So one carbon molecule, one carbon atom can go through a plant, a cow, a human, a mushroom, back to a plant. So the cycle continues like that. For slide 3, explain how human activities contribute to carbon cycle. You must write at least 2 complete sentences. Here we go. Humans breathe out carbon dioxide, which is needed for the carbon cycle to continue. They also burn fossil fuels, which releases carbon into the atmosphere as well. So anything that we use that has carbon contributes to the carbon cycle. Slide 4, we are talking about the nitrogen cycle. So we're going to summarize the steps of nitrogen cycle. Read this for a little bit more information. Watch this video, and we'll go over this graphic here in 1 minute after we go over the answers here. So first things first, click and drag the 2 forms of nitrogen to their correct places on the right. So free nitrogen is in the air, then it gets fixed, and then it becomes in the soil. So free nitrogen in the air, fixed nitrogen in the ground. Free in the air, fixed in the ground. So what are the steps of the nitrogen cycle? First step, nitrogen in the atmosphere falls to the earth in the form of precipitation, rain or snow. Second, once it finds its way into the soil, the bacteria that are live in roots start to combine with hydrogen to form ammonia. This is called nitrogen fixation. So it's in the air. When it rains, it gets to the roots because the water droplets bring it down. When it's in the roots, it combines with hydrogen and it fixes. So it becomes fixed. That process is called nitrogen fixation. Then oxygen is added. When oxygen is added, it is nitrification instead of nitrogen fixation. It's nitrification. And nitrogen is changed one more time from nitrites to nitrates so that plants can use them. So they have to go through a lot of changes. So when they're in the air, plants can't use them. They have to go through a couple of steps before plants can use them. And let's look at this graphic here. So this will help you out a little bit. So it's in the air here. When it's in the air, plants can't use it. Okay, when it's in the air, plants can't use it. Then it gets broken down here. So there are some bacteria that live in the roots of plants that help it fix it. So there's one step it can use it. Another way is that there are just free bacteria in the soil, and they can make ammonium. And there are some nitrifying bacteria that make nitrites. Then there's more that make nitrates, and then the plants can use it. So in the air, atmospheric nitrogen plants can't use. It's got to be broken down to nitrates. Why in the world do we care about the nitrogen system? Remember when we talked about DNA, we had that nitrogenous base. We have to have a way to make that nitrogenous base, and without nitrogen, we can't do that. So the fixation of nitrogen allows us to keep our DNA healthy and keep making DNA for other organisms. On slide 5, I want you to answer this on your own. It's why isn't the world covered in poop? It's about some dung beetles. So watch that, answer the questions on your own. Slides 6, 7, and 8, we're going to go over in this one clip here. So click on this. It's going to show you the water cycle. This is the one that you've learned a lot more about versus the nitrogen and the carbon cycle. So what is the water cycle? It's the cycling of water. So here are the definitions of all of these words. Evaporation is the process by which molecules of liquid absorb energy and change into a gas. Condensation is the process in which that gas turns to a liquid. So these are when your clouds form. So evaporation is when the water leaves the body of water or plants or the ground. Condensation is when the clouds form. And precipitation, as more water vapor condenses, the drops of water in the clouds grow larger. Eventually, heavy drops fall to the earth as precipitation, which can either be rain, snow, sleet, or hail. Those are your 3 main things you need to know. Slide 7, you're clicking and dragging the terms over here to where they go on the water cycle. Here, you have evaporation. You see the water is leaving this body of water into the sky. When those water molecules cool, they condense to form clouds. So condensation, clouds form. Precipitation is when the water falls back to the earth in rain, snow, sleet, or hail. And then the water collects and then will run back off into the larger body of water. For slide 8, what are the 2 parts of a water molecule? You have a hydrogen and you have an oxygen. You have 2 hydrogens, so it's H2O. So H2O. So you have 2 hydrogens and you have 1 oxygen. And you're going to watch this TED Ed video and you're going to tell me, scientists have different theories as to how water got on Earth. Which do you think is true and why? There is no correct answer. You do need to explain why you chose what you chose, though. And that is the end of this notebook.